Hello on the Daily Family. We got a special episode. Normally we do Tuesdays and Fridays, but we're just throwing a fast one at you. I want to introduce Chase Mitchell. He is not only my podcast producer, he is also my friend and he's my business partner. And we launched a brand called HypeU Media, which is a podcasting community. And what we've recently built, our newest born, is a podcasting course called The Business of Podcasting, in which we take you through every single step you're going to need to successfully plan, launch, scale, and monetize your show. So what we want to do with this is really just give you an overview of why you need this course, as well as what you're going to get if you decide to join us inside of this course. So Chase, I will let you tell us a little bit about it.
All right, let's get into it. Well, first of all, it's been super fun to co-parent this new baby together with you. A couple of things that we want to really get into today are really three things about the podcasting world. The importance of starting a podcast for a specific type of person, a specific type of business, and the power that can provide you. The potential profitability and monetization of the podcast for your business, as well as the marketing abilities, variety, and capabilities that it can really provide as a whole to up-level your entire brand, your entire business. So for first off, the importance of starting a podcast. From my experience being a podcast production company owner and working with over 100 podcasts now, helping them get launched, run, and keep running, ideally, I've seen a lot of different types of businesses, from solopreneurs, digital online entrepreneurs, and people that are transitioning their career into a small business and utilizing a podcast to really shorten the learning curve and fast forward the process of building that new brand. And the importance that podcast, in addition to your social media, can really do is pretty tremendous. The power that it can have, from building up the credibility over time in that new space to building up connections in that industry. Those two things combined over time can really shorten that learning curve of that new industry or of building that brand, and just fast forward some of those potential goals that you could really get into. And I've seen a lot of amazing new business owners reach pretty quick success by utilizing their podcast in a really effective way. But I'll let you kind of demonstrate and display how you did that.
Yeah, when I first started my show, it was really, I looked at it as like, oh, this is like another social media platform. It's kind of like my mentality around it was like, oh, it's another platform that I can get my voice onto. Because I was on Instagram. Obviously, I have Facebook because I'm a dinosaur. I would still have MySpace if I could. Like, MySpace was where it was at, and it was the quickest way to like show somebody if you liked them or didn't by whether or not they were in your top 8. Like, bring back MySpace. Anyway, I had every social media platform, and so for me, starting a podcast was just like another place. Over time, my show's 3 years old now, so what we did was, like, I found a coaching business through my podcast, and not through my podcast, but at the same time I was building a coaching business. I was also building my podcast. And for a while they were kind of like separate entities, even though they were still like my brand, my voice getting out there. I kind of thought of them as like separate entities. When I really started to be like, oh, wait, my podcast is an excellent extension of my brand. My business is an extension of my brand. That's when everything started to like really marinate. And we'll go into that in a little bit more in a second. Yeah. But really, I think now the most important reason for you, as if you are an entrepreneur, if you are building a digital business of any kind, or even if you're just like Chase said, like you want to have more speaking opportunities, like there's so many things that you may want, whatever your goals are. With the advancements in AI, artificial intelligence, it's never been a better time to put your voice, your true voice on the internet, because it truly is going to become the most like valuable commodity you have. And it's like, no matter what happens with AI, no matter how many like AI coaches, AI influencers, AI, anything there are, I know that the one thing that will never be able to be taken away from me is my voice. And so for me, that's become the most important thing I have, is like, it's my voice and it's what I have to say and it's the way I think and it's the way I perceive information. And then I I display that on my show.
Well, not only your voice through the podcast, but other things that AI can't replace is like the connections that you can make in person or over Zoom and Riverside and some of these virtual platforms to be able to make those connections in that industry. A podcast is a great place to start doing that, and to be a guest on other people's shows, invite them onto your show and really do that, real effective networking. But it's such a good point. Your show is such a great example, no offense, of but ineffective use of a podcast and effective use of a podcast. From when it started, as you were building a brand and building a new business, as you were transitioning, kind of into a different career with your own business and brand, while also building a podcast that was somewhat irrelevant to that brand. That was a great example of how those two things weren't synced up together and they weren't feeding each other. Whereas when that connection was made and you started using the podcast to feed directly into your business, how much it truly expanded and how quickly that was able to start growing and find your right audience.
And I think that's one of the best things about this course is a lot of people just start podcasts. And then like for me, I was like, I'm going to interview everybody. But I realized really quickly, like I wanted to be the authority and I couldn't just interview a whole bunch of people on my podcast and expect to also be known as the authority of the things that I was talking about. And so that was something that I didn't know at the beginning, that you will learn inside of this course is really like, what's your message? Like, what's your purpose? What are you trying to deliver and bring to the world? Because that matters when you decide to start a podcast. So like, that's another thing. And we're going to show you an overview of everything you get inside this course, but that's literally like the biggest thing is like, we teach you like how to conceptualize your show to make it truly the most valuable that you can.
Yeah. And I think that just segues right into the next main point that we want to go into is the potential profitability, monetization, and scalability of your brand through your podcast. There's direct funnels and indirect funnels that the podcast can do for your business. Obviously, directly, you can use it for ads for yourself, ads for, affiliate type of ads that are nice short-term revenue. There's a bunch of different monetization strategies that you can use that we go much deeper into in the course. But there's a variety of things from test running exclusive offers to creating your first speaking opportunity because of a guest that you brought on or from different types of segments that you've created on your show. Getting out and multiplying your referral lists from having those different connections and guests, building wait lists up for your events and retreats. There's just so many different ways that the show can be utilized for direct and indirect monetization opportunities. But again, I'll kind of toss it over to you to display how you've done that directly and indirectly.
Yeah. So I believe that like Danielle McCleary is the brand. Everything I do is the extension of the brand. So even my business is an extension of me. All my offerings are extensions of me. My podcast is an extension of my brand, and it's the best funnel for my business. So as an entrepreneur with a coaching business, I use my podcast as a funnel and like a free preview into what it would be like to work with me. So I don't really chase like ad revenue in the traditional sense of like partnering with brands. Sure. Is my show like at a place where I could do that? Yeah. Will I in the future? Probably. But in the most recent year, the biggest thing I've been focusing on is like talking about what I have to offer on my show, as well as giving an insane amount of value. Like I always say, like, what I share in my podcast is worth thousands of dollars and you can listen to it for free. But what I do very well is like talk about what I'm offering on my show so that it funnels back to my Instagram, back to my website, back to my paid offers. And so I've really figured out this way to turn my podcast into the best leg, like the best lead generation leg for my business. And it helped me eliminate doing sales calls because I can just send people to my podcast instead of having to get on a sales call with someone. If I'm building out email sequences and automations, my freebies that I offer are these podcast episodes that speak to the thing that we're talking about in the sequence. So it really does kind of be this like multifaceted thing. It's also become like the source and like the root of all of the content that I produce through social media. One episode can turn into like 18 to 20 pieces of content, which again, we go over inside of this course. So there's just a lot of monetization opportunities in the non-traditional sense that you can get. And that's something that like between Chase and I, we've mastered both from the production side and the actual podcaster side, which is why what we're offering is so unique, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the ability for it to be so scalable, once you actually launch the show and you start building the brand and the business, your podcast can obviously eventually start reaching so many new potential customers, and it can go from 100 potential listeners to 1,000 on any given episode, which can then, if you do have a business that potentially is scalable, meaning, like the way that you have with courses that can be purchased, not requiring any additional effort on your end, it can be really effective for your business if one episode pops off and that funnels directly to one offer that doesn't take any more additional energy from your end. It just allows another platform like social media to be able to provide some of those direct funnels. And I think it's such a good example with your show, again, of like the evolution of the monetization from starting out with potentially affiliate ad opportunities that can provide short-term revenue, funneling into maybe some long-term memberships. Maybe there's a paywalled community that's a text community or something else where, the like real superstar fans of the show want more. There's so many different platforms like Patreon, or Community, the text platform, where you can create paywalled membership opportunities for more passive kind of monthly recurring revenue. And you can continue to grow that kind of monetization strategy from your show in a variety of ways. And I think the next thing that we want to go over is the marketing ability of the show, the ability to replace or add to your social media brand through using your podcast content. And if done effectively and correctly, you can utilize your social media and your podcast to really feed into each other. So ideally, you've got your podcast to create a ton of social media clips. Those clips can then help obviously spread your brand message. Ideally, your podcast is related to your brand. And so those clips will be really great, somewhat advertisements and messages around what your services, your brand can offer to those potential clients. Build your credibility, build your brand awareness, build your following, and funnel to your services through those social media clips that you created just from your podcast. So if you struggle to have to record a bunch of social media content, the podcast can be the place that really does that naturally for you. And then in vice versa, the social media content that you're posting from your podcast only grows the audience of your podcast, and it continues to feed into each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's what my show's done. Like everything we do on my show funnels back to my social media. It funnels back to my email list. It funnels back to my paid offers. I use it as a place to share testimonials. So like when I work with a client who has a huge breakthrough, like we can talk about it on the podcast, and it's like this long form testimonial, which is like, there's nothing better to create sales in a business than testimonials and social proof. So it really becomes this one-stop shop for like everything that you could possibly need to market your business, market your brand, market like anything new that's coming. And I think that's what we've done with this course, is really show you like all the possibilities, but not just like, here's the possibilities. Like what we really give you is like the ways, like the how, like how to do that, actually, like how to set that up and how to make that a possibility. Because I think so many people want to start a podcast. You're probably one of them. You probably are thinking about wanting to start a podcast and you're like, well, I don't even know where to start. Like, how do I even do that? And so when we were building out the business of podcasting, we're literally sitting here going, what are the questions that everybody asks every single day? And that came from Chase's perspective, which is like the production side, and like the business side. Like, why do I need a podcast as a business owner? Like, I can answer that. Why? How do I start a podcast? What do I need to start a podcast? Should I hire production? Like, that's Chase's wheelhouse. And so we've really come together to like, to give you that. I think it's a good time to show you.
Yeah, let's get into it. I think those were like kind of 3 little sneak peeks of what some of the content is inside of it, but also a little bit of a importance as to the different things that it can provide. But yeah, let's show a little bit of what is actually in the course.
Yeah. So when you buy the business of podcasting, you will get automatic access to your course dashboard which once you're in and you're part of this course, if we ever go in and add new modules, add new segments, add new chapters, if we ever have like live calls, it will all get automatically added to your course dashboard. So you'll get every new version, anything new we add. Once you have it for life. So the beauty of a self-paced course is that you get it on your own time. You don't have to wait for anybody else's time to move to the next module. You get to bounce around. You get to finish it as quickly as you want. You get to come back to it as many times as you want. And you get everything new that's added in the future. So currently, when you purchase, this is what you will see when you sign into your course dashboard. You can see over here, we have our table of contents. We have our intros where we get to know us a little bit. And then our stage 1 is all about pre-launch. So this is like everything you're going to need to know before you launch your show. Everything from niching, why you're starting it, things we wish we knew, like actual equipment that you're going to need to launch, actual tech knowledge that you will need to have in order to successfully launch your show. Everything before you launch. There's literally 5 modules full of information. Stage 2 is our launch phase, which is, again, more launch resources, how to set up different accounts like Transistor. And, it's like a big question I think people have is like, okay, great, I record this show, then what? Like, what do I do with it? And like, sure, you could go Google it. Sure, everything is done on Google, but I'm like path of least resistance. And I know Chase is too. Like, if we can do it, if we can find the information in an easier way, why wouldn't we? So we were like, let's just make a course that gives you everything. Equipment recommendations, how to record. That's a big one. Like, how should your mic be set up? Like, what background should you have? Like, what works better for clips? Like, all these things. Like, if you're recording with the idea of posting social media, like, we give you tips for there. Launch mindset, because that's the other thing that goes into it. Like, it's always 80% energy, 20% strategy. How to market for your launch. So like social media campaigns, like how to prep for, the influx of views and how to plan for that, both with an email list, with social media, whatever. Then we have post-launch. So after you've launched your episodes and now you're like, okay, I have a podcast. This is where a lot of people tend to fall off, is they launch their show and then they realize the work it takes. They never thought about the scaling. They never thought about monetization. They never thought about repurposing. They never thought about batching. And then they usually will get to a point where they've recorded like a month's worth of content and then go womp womp. And Chase, I know you probably know this, but what's the statistic of shows that like make it to like a year, or is it a certain amount of shows? Like, isn't it like 90 something % of shows never?
It's something very high. Some high amount of shows do not make it past 6 months. I don't know the exact statistic, but I think the primary reason for that is everyone has a podcast idea and it's super fun, the concept of launching a show. But then there's so much behind I don't know if I have the time or energy to do this consistently, because they might not have all the tools that they need to actually get it running, or their idea wasn't kind of fully fleshed out with the business idea around it, where it makes sense for them to even continue pursuing. But yeah, it's something around 90 something % don't make it past 6 months,
which is ridiculous. And again, Chase and I also agree on this. Like, why would you ever start anything, especially a podcast, if the goal isn't to keep it going? Because it is work. It isn't just something that you're just gonna be like, I'm gonna record a podcast tonight. Like, it does take work. And especially if you're gonna be a smart strategically and like actually think like an entrepreneur when you start your show, you want to make sure that you're energetically planning your time, but also strategically planning your actual time. Like, what happens when you get through the first couple of months and then you're like, oh, all my ideas are out? Like, we give you tools for that. We give you actual tangible things that you can take to implement into the scaling and the launch and the post-launch of your show, so that you don't burn out, so that you don't get to the point where you're just bleeding money and then you're like, what's it doing? We give you literally everything you want. And then we also have a whole community that you'll get access to. So beyond this, we also have the Business of Podcasting community, also on Thinkific. So also on your course dashboard, you'll see communities, which is like a community-led chat where you can discuss issues or like wins you're having with other members of the Business of Podcasting community hosted by HypeU. We'll be in there. Chase and I will be in there to kind of answer any questions. We'll also do live calls. We'll also do some hot seat coaching. So it's not just like, here's everything you need to start a podcast. We also are coaches. Like that's what we do. And so we really want to make sure that not only are you getting all of the information that you need, but truly understand and feel confident in continuing and launching and monetizing and scaling a show and how that relates back to your business. So this course gives it all to you. And you can currently get you can currently get this course for half off of the full price. And that's because we want to get as many people in the door so that we can all be starting shows. Because this is the year that you should be starting a podcast. 3 years ago was the year you should have started a podcast. Now is the year you should absolutely be starting a podcast.
I think what's so great about it is it does just put everything all in one place. For so many people that I've consulted with or coached, and they tried to launch it on their own. They just had 20 different YouTube tabs always up, trying to find the right thing. And this just puts everything succinctly into one place for you at whatever stage you're at, from pre-launch to launch to post-launch, really easily. And then also, it's not just the helping you get launched or helping you teach some information about monetization strategies. It is that kind of everlasting community around it. As people sign up and continue to move forward with their show, they'll all be in here, as well as, like you said, me and you, to kind of continue that support post-launch, because I think that's what most people do struggle with after launch, is having that community to ask questions to shorten the learning curve, to know how to use ads more effectively, interview strategies, short content segments that work, and just have that kind of community of other people that are either new into the podcasting world or, at different stages of it, to be workshopping and brainstorming with.
Yeah. And I think if you're wondering, like, is this course for me? I think this course is for you if you have an idea for a show, you've wanted to start a podcast for a long time, and it's always overwhelmed you, which has given you analysis paralysis and failure to launch. Then this course is for you. If you have a show and maybe it's not seeing the growth that you expected it to, but then you also don't really know where to go now, this course is definitely for you. If you have a great idea for a show, you kind of know the basics, but you also maybe you either want to DIY it or hiring a full production team is not in the budget currently, then this course is absolutely for you. So kind of it doesn't really matter where you are in the podcasting journey, you can find yourself in this course. You can find the value that you need in this course, but this is really, really for the people who know what they want to do. They don't know where to start. They need support. They want support. They want a community, and probably are in the position of DIYing it, but want to DIY it in the way that's going to keep it going, instead of, like Chase said, having 95 YouTube links open all day long while trying to come up with content for a show. If you like the path of least resistance, this course is for you. So,
and if you're listening on the podcast and you want to see a preview of what's in the course, then you can just DM Danielle, and we will get this little video over to you for you to see all of the ins and outs.
Yeah, you can come find me on Instagram, Danielle_on_the_daily. If you are listening to this on the podcast, you can also click the link in our show notes and it will take you directly to the video version of what you're listening to. And if this is a course that that you're interested in and you want to read more about it, or you want to enroll, go ahead and come to my Instagram, Danielle_on_the_daily, or you can go visit Chase's Instagram. What's your Instagram?
It's a good question.
Chase Mitchell,
you can just
right?
go to Upstarter Pods, the production company, and reach out to me there. That's where more of the businessy work is done.
Yeah, just DM us, the words I'm in, and we will send you the link so that you can join us inside of HypeU Media Presents the Business of Podcasting. So with that, we thank you for your time. We hope to see you inside, and we hope you have the best day ever. Bye.
Bye.